Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is my body, this is my blood.
Firearms Friday.
That's right. TGIFFF. Thank goodness it's Firearms Friday. Finally, Firearms Friday. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the program. It is that one day a week where we dedicate the show to the Second Amendment and all things related to guns and the 2A movement, including laws and tips, tricks, commentary, and so much more. The Michael Duke Show, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator, and live around the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream and the social media sites, including Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, and so much more. Hello. How are you doing? You ready for this long weekend? Yes, I forgot to tell you. I mean, I thought it was implied, but it is a long weekend. The show will be on hiatus for Labor Day. So just in case you guys were wondering, I will not be getting up at dark 30 on Monday for you people. I'm going to be asleep. We'll be hanging out with the family, doing things, getting ready for winter, doing all that stuff. So thanks for thinking of me. But this is the long 3-day weekend here going into the holiday, and we'll be back on the air on Tuesday for that as well. But today we've got a lot of stuff lined up. A great guest here in hour one. It's been a hot minute since we've talked to him, and we're going to bring him back here in just a second. David Codrea, who writes for the Farms blog, the Firearms News. Wow, I don't know where that came from. Firearms News, and also, of course, writes for Ammo Land, and he's written for Guns Magazine. He's had his own blog for years. You can find it at waronguns.com, and everything. We're going to be talking about the administration conversation. You're going to be a little uncomfortable with this, but that's okay. We like to challenge your premise. That's what we like to do. Coming up in hour two, we've got some other headlines. We're going to take maybe some phone calls, and we'll finish up with Willie Waffle from who comes in to give us our weekend entertainment review and so much more. All right. I think that's the full load of everything you guys needed to know before we get started. And so let's get down into it. Again, David Codrea, waronguns.com, writes for Ammo Land, also for Firearms News, which you can find over there at firearmsnews.com. He joins us here this morning to discuss some interesting topics. Well, something that's going to be making some of us uncomfortable. Not me particularly, but some of everybody else. Good morning, David. How are you this morning, my friend?
I didn't mean to make anybody uncomfortable, but I forgot to remove the blanket from the couch. So feel free to be comfortable, everybody.
I know. Well, we'll need that.
Home.
I'm going to need that blankie and a binky by the time I'm done today. I think that'll be what happens. Give me a whoopee and a binky, and we'll be happy. David, thanks for coming on and joining us this morning. Now, you and I have both taken some heat over the last few years because we dared to call out a couple things that happened during the previous Trump administration, including his insistence after the Parkland shooting that something had to be done about guns. He was going to increase the age of people who could buy rifles. You know, at one point he was quoted right after that as saying that we'll take the guns and worry about due process later. Some things that were concerning to those of us that were in the gun culture. Now, that wasn't very popular to bring up. And of course, the reaction was always, well, he's changed his mind since. You something on Facebook, I think it was yesterday or day before. I caught it was yesterday, and I thought it really kind of played right back into what that kind of thing before, because again, you and I have taken some heat over this from people who are supporters of the president. I think he's done a lot of great stuff, but I do have some questions. Your comment was risk of infuriating or kill the mess, and a lot of
people irritated has done in terms of not only words but also actions. Second Amendment task force that he's established with Bondi, declaring it's not a second-class right, streamlining the permit process in DC, although I question permits as being consistent with shall not be infringed. But you know what? The enemy does things in increments, and I can see the argument that we have to do things back in increments. Okay. And no question about it. But by coming back as a rejoinder to pointing out legitimate things that the administration is doing wrong, to have the only rejoinder being, would you rather have Harris? Well, first of all, the answer is of course not. But that stops the conversation right there, and it does not allow us to explore the things that are going wrong. And the reason that I do this is because I want the Trump administration to succeed with its Second Amendment promises, and I want to see the next administration, I want to see the Republicans not blow the midterms, and the only way they're going to do this is if they can knowledgeably argue the Second Amendment. We're at the point in this country where things are on a scale, Democrats, Republicans, and it's so balanced at this point. Last election with the electoral blowout and all that notwithstanding, that we can't get overconfident and think we're going to have another red wave in the midterms, because we saw the last red wave and it was more like some pink ripples that were coming up.
I call it the pink tinkle. It wasn't a red wave; it was a pink tinkle, right? I mean, that's
yeah. There you go. And I mean, I've had irate readers write to the editor of Firearms News. He sent me email saying, I'm going to cancel my subscription until you fire this guy. Okay. Well, I'm still here, so I guess I must not have irritated him that much. But here's the thing: we have the National Guard going into Washington, D.C. Okay. No problem. D.C. is an absolute hellhole of crime. Crime has gone down. You see the record. The murders have stopped and all that. So what's the problem with that? Well, one of the things they're doing, and this is my only real beef with this, one of the things that they're doing is they are arresting people simply for having a gun. Now, we get into the fact that, well, he's a felon with a gun, he's a gangbanger, he's a teenager, he's a whatever. And the truth of the matter is, if we are going to exalt the Bruin decision and go back to what the founders understood when they ratified the Second Amendment, okay, and if we are going to honor history, text, and tradition as being the benchmarks to decide whether or not something is consistent with the Second Amendment, we can't just start adding our own modern interpretations to this. And the fact of the matter is, there were no laws at the time of the founding that said, because you serve time in a prison, once we let you out, you're disarmed forever. Or because you are a juvenile, many of whom served in militias and were enrolled and enlisted in the Continental Army, we can keep you from having guns that way. That seems to me to be a parental choice. Although I know we can go back and argue, well, they don't have parents or they're not watched and all that. It doesn't matter. The simple act of possessing a gun, unless it's stolen, okay, is not a crime. It's what you do with the gun. And I submit that there is plenty that these folks are doing with guns that allow us to arrest them and put them away. And the problem there is then it's catch and release. You know, if someone can't be trusted with a gun, what the heck are we doing letting this person run free in society? And if they have committed acts of violence, they have proven that they can't be trusted in society. And the added benefit of that is they have been given full due process in order to be found guilty. So at that point, no one has a problem. But you've got Janine Tiro out there, who I guess is his big attorney who is ramrodding these things, saying that, you know, if we catch you with an illegal gun, we're going to arrest you. And that to me is a real problem. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this. They're going to say, well, yeah, but he's a bad guy. You got to take his gun away. Well, you know what? How can you really tell who a bad guy is until you have charged him with a crime and prosecuted him and gotten a guilty plea out of it? And it is the exact same argument that we used 25 years ago when a Project Exile condemnation coalition was formed. It was signed off by guys like Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America, guys like Aaron Zellman of Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, guys like me. And basically what we said is that we understand that Project Exile is being implemented to add, you know, gun possession charges and put people away who are felons simply for having a gun. However, any law that can do that to any citizen can do that to anybody, and it will be enforced against us all. And we see it. We see it. What would happen if I were in LA or I were in Chicago and I got caught with a concealed carry pistol and I don't have a permit in Los Angeles, or I don't have an FOID card in Illinois? They're going to charge me just simply for having a gun, and they're going to put me in prison, and they're going to prosecute me to the full extent of the law.
You know, David, what really came to mind when I saw this, and I read your article and talking about what the ATF is going door to door in DC and talking about things, and you know what it reminded me of was Katrina and the response to Katrina, when Oklahoma National Guard members were brought in to go door to door to disarm people, simply because they had, even they couldn't, some of them they weren't prohibited people, they were just citizens who were, you know, and that's the problem. And you're right. If we're going to pay homage and we're going to hold up Bruin as the new law of the land, and we're going to say, hey, we've got to use historical, traditional, you know, interpretations and texts and find analogous laws and everything else, and we got to hold to that. We've got to take the good, I guess, with the bad, if you got to say that. So if you've done your time and you've served your sentence and you're back in society and you have a firearm to protect yourself, you shouldn't simply be arrested for the simple possession. Were you doing something bad? Were you at home? Were you just hanging out? Were you protecting your family? Do you live in a high crime neighborhood? I mean, these are questions that should be asked. And if you weren't doing anything bad, then, hey, pound sand. That is that is our right. So we've got to take this on both sides. We can't have the good and not have the uncomfortable at the same time.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Michael. It's not just bad mouthing the administration for this. Okay. Because I give full credit to the administration. Look at the way crime is down in DC.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
you can't argue. Nothing succeeds like success. Okay, but it's not just bad mouthing the administration, because I offer a solution, and that solution is very simple. Every single gun rights organization out there could participate in this if they chose to. So far, none have. But they formed this Second Amendment task force that Pam Bondi has put together. And it's got people from Justice Department on it. It's got people, I guess, from ATF on it. It's got all kinds of people on it. And they all work for the government. They all earn their paycheck. Their careers depend on not crossing the line of the administration. And my whole thing is look at the Biden administration. They put together this gun violence prevention task force, or whatever the heck they called it. And they brought in people from Brady and people from Everytown and people from Mom's Demand and people from Giffords, and all the anti-gunners were there, basically tweaking them on what laws we can pass and what lawsuits we can do and what judges we can appoint. And my contention is this task force is incomplete unless you bring in gun rights leaders. Okay. I'm not going to throw any names out there right now. We know people in the movement who are getting things done, who are having successful lawsuits, who are able to, get politicians elected and things like that. But people who represent us, the gun owners, who are not beholden to the hand that feeds them from the administration, so that they can bring up uncomfortable truths and they can help say, look, you got this guy coming up for a judicial nominee. Our people have looked at it, and these are some problems right here that need to be worked out, or else we're going to be against this. Or
Right.
There's this law that's happening, or there's this inconsistency, or there's this lawsuit, and the Justice Department position is a reversal. It's almost like the administration is bipolar. One day they do something good about guns, the next day they turn around, they say something stupid about guns, or they defend a bad law. Okay.
Right.
If you had this task force that included prominent representatives of the Second Amendment community as members, okay, I think you would be able to avoid a lot of these embarrassments, a lot of these disconnects, and stop a lot of the complaints. Because what do the complaints do? They take the fire out of the bellies of gun rights activists, and they say, well, if they're going to turn around and do this, why should I get involved? Why should I donate money to this campaign? Why should I walk a precinct for these characters? Why should I even give $1? Or why should I even vote if, with Republicans like these, who needs Democrats? And,
Right.
and so the whole intent of all this is not to destroy and not to badmouth. It's to point out things that need to be corrected, that could be corrected, that could be easily corrected if we would just be talking to each other. If we had our gun owner representatives working hand in hand with the administration. And what's happened with this task force, by the way? Have you seen any publicity releases or anything like that? Whereas if there were a representative from SAF or from GOA or from NRA or from NAGR or any of these organizations that would be then reporting back to us and informing their members, and their members would be giving them feedback and pushback and letting them know what we as gun owners want to,
Right.
Talk about democracy. Gee.
Well, it's about accountability. This whole
Yeah.
thing is about accountability. It's about holding the president and his administration accountable to the things that he said. And it's even more important to do that, again, because of some of his past commentary and past positions on this, to continue to hold him accountable. It's not disloyalty. It is loyalty to the truth, and it is loyalty to the foundational principles of the country and to what he has said since he had, has again changed his mind post Parkland and everything else. We have to hold them accountable for that. David Codrea is our guest. You could find him at waronguns.com. He writes for the Firearms News and for AmmoLand. I'm going to go ahead and post up a link to his latest article in the chat room so you guys can read it and we can have a further conversation about it. We're going to continue with David Codrea in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Dukes Show.
Okay, we are in the break. David Codrea, our guest here on the program for Firearms Friday. It's kind of funny, David, because again, you and I were sounding some of the same alarms coming into the last election cycle and over the course of President Trump running for a second term, both times running for a second term. And I took some hate. I had some emails, some ugly emails. I'm going to stop listening to you because you are trying, and again, isn't it our job? I want to say when somebody's doing a good job, I want to praise them. When somebody's doing something wrong, I want to point it out, not to criticize them, but to hopefully get enough impetus to correct the course. And that's what we're talking about here. I mean, nobody denies that the president said, we'll take the guns and worry about due process later. Now, of course, the argument is, well, he's changed his mind since then. Well, what caused him to change his mind? People like you and me calling out and saying, well, that's not, you can't just ignore that's not standing up for constitutional rights. And Trump has done more than any other modern president in my lifetime to protect gun rights. He has, but you just can't let them slip. You can't let them slip backwards and backpedal because that's what politicians do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you and I are going out on patrol. Okay, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to fire at the enemy, and at one time, I'm going to shoot you in the back. Are you going to want to go out on patrol with me?
Right? Yeah. Oops. Out.
Yeah.
It's only a flesh wound. Don't worry. It's only a flesh wound. Yeah. No. It's frustrating, and you see this, and again, I don't want to be part of a. I don't want to be part of a cult of yes, where everything somebody does is sunshine and rainbows. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes or takes wrong turns or takes missteps. And if you don't call it out, then that's how you get totalitarianism. That's how you get, a cult of personality and a leader that just leads because they can never be wrong. That's how you get a Z, or that's how you get a Pol Pot, or that's how you get anybody like that, is because everybody around them is afraid to say anything about where they're going. And not that we've reached that point in America, but we've got to continue to call it out. That's the point.
Well, I do think that some of the gun rights leaders walk on eggshells around Trump, because the guy's got just this monumental ego. That's part of what makes him tick. Okay, that's part of what makes him a driving force and a success, is that he's got an ego that won't quit. And if you get him mad, and if he feels like you're attacking him, he takes it personally, and then he attacks back. Look at what he's doing with Thomas Massie. Okay, and calling him a loser. We got to get him out of Congress. And I can't think of any representative in Congress who has more fidelity to the Constitution than Thomas Massie. So what the heck's the problem here? I posted a picture years back in an article of Trump and Massie standing, side by side, Trump grinning, thumbs up. Okay, everything's hunky dory until Massie starts opposing some things that Trump wants to do on constitutional grounds. And now all of a sudden he's a loser. And I think that, a lot of our gun rights leaders are savvy enough to where they see this is the way the guy operates. So if you don't walk on eggshells, he's going to give us the same treatment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Marco Rubio, right? Small hands Marco, right? That was the whole thing. Attack. And now he's a Secretary of State. I mean,
J.D. Vance.
Yeah, J.D. Vance, the same kind of thing. I mean, we see this over and over and over again. It's how the guy operates. He's a maximalist, and he comes in, attack, and then he smooths and makes nice. But again, we can't forsake our defense of the Second Amendment and of that constitutional right just to appease. And somebody's got to call out and call a spade a spade. And we're about to rejoin the radio here, but I do want to talk because you mentioned, everybody's all excited about Jeanine Pirro. She's got Fox News and she's so great, and she's got some great commentary. I do like a lot of the things she said, but she's got some troubling history when it comes to the Second Amendment, and yet she's in charge of this whole DC thing. And so we can point on that before we move on to other things as well.
Okay.
So hold the line for a second. David Codrea, waronguns.com. You could find him at Firearms News as well. He writes for AmmoLand. He does a lot of great stuff, and you should go out and read everything he's ever written right now. Well, not right now. Wait till after the show. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
So you got to make sure you check the tags on those guns to make sure that they're not murder guns and assault guns. They got to be tagged protection guns. Just when you go to the store, make sure you check the tags, right, David? I mean, that's an important part of checking the description on it's right underneath the price. Protection gun, right? That's what it's all about. David Codrea, waronguns.com. We were just talking about our right and our duty as citizens and as members of the gun culture and of the supporters of the Second Amendment to make sure that we hold our leaders accountable. And that's what this is really all about. It's about accountability to the people. It's why we've, people say, well, you keep bringing up what Trump said during Parkland. You keep bringing, because one, it was so shocking. The president of the United States looks in the camera and says, we'll take away the guns and we'll worry about due process later. If that doesn't cause your pucker to if you don't just, clench up a little bit at that, then there's something wrong with you. Okay. Well, he's changed his mind. Okay. But he thought it and he said it out loud and he said it in front of cameras. We've got to hold him accountable. That's what this is really about. And then he surrounds himself with some interesting folks. Bondi has so far, we were a little worried because of her support of things like red flag laws and everything else in Florida, but she seems to be towing the line. But you make a point in this article about Jeanine Pirro, she's a great legal mind. She's said some great things on Fox News. I've liked a lot of her commentary, but she's got some troubling past actions on the Second Amendment as well, David.
Yeah, and to go back to Trump, he had never really recanted any of the statements and said, I was wrong, and for these reasons, let us know he understood why. The same with Pam Bondi, saying I was wrong on red flags, I was wrong on 18-year-olds, and the Justice Department is still pulling tricks. Gun Owners of America says that, it appears that they're backtracking on zero tolerance at this point. There are a lot of lawsuits where the DOJ is taking the wrong side and or DOJ employees act like they didn't get the memo that she put out on April 8th saying that we are going to protect the Second Amendment. The same with Jeanine Pirro. Let me just pull this up right now. Let me just read from the article. It says, as an aside, it's particularly puzzling seeing how many MAGA-loving gun owners have embraced Judge Jeanine. They're evidently unaware that current, quote, pro-2A platitudes about it being a natural right aside, she has never renounced launching a county gun amnesty buyback program to, quote unquote, get illegal and unwanted weapons off the streets in 2000, and joining with New Yorkers Against Gun Violence in 2004 to demand, quote, renewal and strengthening of the federal assault weapons ban. And I submit to you that if we are going to be talking about a pro-gun administration, we need to understand and we need to know that Judge Jeanine is now just not mouthing platitudes because that's what the boss wants her to say, but she actually believes it and that she actually understands why it was wrong to do a buyback program, why it was wrong to call for banning semi-automatic rifles. I'd like to hear her admit that and say it and do it in a sincere way to where we know that she's not just a functionary doing essentially what she's told to move the football forward for the administration's agenda. Okay,
right?
It's simple. And here's the thing, Michael. It's real easy to point out shortcomings, okay, to criticize, if you will, and act on a high horse. None of us is perfect, okay? I'm certainly not perfect. I certainly don't hold myself up as being the arbiter of what we have to all believe in. I'm merely some guy that's tugging on the shirt and saying, hey, you see that over there, and it just happened to be what I see, and I'm sharing what I see. I've made plenty of mistakes in my past. I've made plenty of mistakes in my defense of the Second Amendment. I go back and look at some of the earlier stuff that I was involved in, and I would reconsider some of that now. I have put out articles that I found out that I was wrong. A lot of times when that happens, people will just try to make it disappear and act like it never happened and hope nobody noticed. Whenever I find something like that out, I put out an article showing what was wrong, where it went wrong, how it went wrong, and apologizing for any mistakes I might have made. We have to be able to go back and admit that this, in fact, that we did was a mistake, and we're sorry, and we won't do it again.
It's again, the whole point of this, I think, of your commentary and my commentary over the years on where the president is going, again, goes back to that accountability, to just hold him true to his words. And again, he's done some great things. And, he's put in good judges. We've had good decisions. He's trying to retask the Department of Justice through the FBI and the ATF to bring them down and to, trying to bring them to heel. And those are all great things. But it's got to be a continual full court press. You're not going to reverse the impetus and momentum of an organization like the ATF or the Department of Justice as a whole overnight. You're not even going to do it in 1 4-year term. It's going to have to be something that you continue to push again and again and again and bring them back on course every time. Here's our goal. Here's our goal. Here's our goal. Full Second Amendment rights as outlined by the Constitution. No bureaucratic overreach, those kind of things. And unless we call them out and bring them to heel on this, we're going to continue to fight this battle over and over and over. We're going to lose ground on it.
Sure, and we could very well lose ground with the upcoming election. I'm doing some work right now looking into some of this stuff in terms of lack of voter participation, including among gun owners. In a previous life, one of the jobs that I held when I was between career jobs was selling slate mailers to politicians in California. These are the mailers that you get that have the candidates and the issues and things like that. Say, vote for this and vote for these people and all that.
Right.
Interesting experience, boy. You find out what a bunch of cheap people these guys are when you try to collect the money from them. Okay. But the bottom line is that we need to get the vote done. And here's where I fight back when somebody wants to criticize me for criticizing administration missteps. It's like, what are you doing is my rejoinder. Are you, giving money to any gun organization or any candidate? Okay. Are you working for them? I've done all this stuff, Michael. I've worked phone banks. I've walked precincts. I've donated money. I right now, try to get it out there and build the vote and to try to motivate some people sometimes. So you get some of the loudest complainers, some of the loudest bloviators, and it turns out all they really do is they make internet comments and they don't really do a damn thing besides that. And I'm not going to let some lump like that lecture me on, what I should say and what I shouldn't say, because they're going to wave the flag and go rah, rah, rah. I don't have time for that. Neither do you. We do this, Michael, because it's a passion and we have fire in our bellies, and it's bewildering sometimes how you have to try to drag people along and herd cats and do this and do that. And that's not to criticize anybody out there that's doing anything. There's plenty of things you can do, from writing letters to editors, to taking new people shooting, to teaching kids gun safety, to working for a candidate, to promoting things, sharing links. Share this program. You listen to this program, you get value from this program. Why aren't you out there evangelizing for this program and getting more people to come in and listen to it? Simple stuff like that we can all do every day. And I try my best to help promote people who I feel are worthy. Okay. And, there's a new blog that's a startup and the guy's looking for readers and all that. And I'll try to send some eyeballs over that person's way. If I agree with what they're saying, little things and big things that we all can do, but we're all out there striving. And, so I'm not going to apologize if I notice something that seems amiss and I point it out to people. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not going to apologize, you know?
Well,
But
again, it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to hold them accountable. It's what we should do. And if there's slings and arrows in it, so be it. I want to talk a little bit about, where we're going from here. Of course, we just had the Minneapolis shooting, and it's amazing to watch the mainstream media try to spin this. I saw a tweet from some, I don't know, blue checked somebody or other that was talking about, another white supremacist, whatever white male, this is what homegrown terrorism looks like, yada, yada, yada. No mention of the fact that this person was, was anti-Semitic, was trans, was a supporter, wanted to, hated the president, all this, no mention of all that. It's always, again, trying to fit the narrative. And you're not seeing the news media give the full reports of everything. Instead, we sensationalize it. They get their name in the paper. They get all this kind of stuff. We here on the program will never mention the name of any of these shooters because that's what they want. We'll never say who they are or where they came from, to give them any kind of fame, even, post-living fame. But this is a huge part of what we have today is we have a problem with the mainstream media taking these issues, not fully reporting, sensationalizing it for clicks, and then trying to form the narrative around what their philosophical viewpoint is.
Yeah, I've seen it all. I just did a post earlier this morning called "Suffer the Children" on my blog, The War on Guns, and talked about the shooter was obsessed with the idea of killing children. And my comment is the most vulnerable and precious among us, they're the future, and Democrats don't want to let us protect them from monsters of their creation. And take a look at it. There's nothing untrue about that statement. This whole preponderance, the way that society is being changes are being forced through the education system. To me, it's a wonder more kids don't go nuts. They are just so indoctrinated and have this beaten into them. And if racism is just rife in the public school system, but it's all anti-white racism, which they tell us can't be because we're somehow the majority. But
Right.
They're doing their best to make sure we're not going to be the majority in another 20 years or so. It's just amazing what's going on. And then they say that, well, the solution is, of course, to take guns away from you and me and your listeners, which is utter nonsense. And here's another thing that I guess I could bring up and drag President Trump into this. There's a program that Buckeye Firearms Association here in Ohio really heavily promotes. It's called FASTER. And essentially what it is, it's training to arm teachers. And they've been able to do that successfully in schools in Ohio, where the legislature has allowed it to be a decision that the local school boards make. And I would like to see a program like this take off nationwide, because schools are gun-free zones. We see, like Uvalde, by the time the cops get there, a lot of the shooting has been over. A lot of the victims have already been piled up, and the cops are dithering around in the halls. And with programs that have armed teachers, armed administrators, and people like that, why not? As long as they want to do it, and why don't we protect the most precious charges among us? It's insane. Instead, you want to disarm David Codrea and Michael Dukes. What are you talking about?
No. We'll put armed gunmen inside of banks, inside of legislative buildings, inside of all these other things, but we don't want to protect the kids, our most precious resource. That makes no sense whatsoever. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. David Codrea, our guest. We're back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, David Codrea, our guest here. The waronguns.com is where you'll find his blog and more. Boy, the hour goes so fast when we get David on here. So much stuff going on. Tell me, just give me a little bit of reaction, David. I mean, when you bring something like this up, again, it's obvious in your commentary that there's going to be, MAGA loyalists who want to, trounce you or trash you or whatever. Have you ever been able to convince them? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody over something like this where they come away going, oh, okay, I could see your point. I could see you're right. Or is there a danger? Well, this is my feeling is there's a danger of people who are so convinced that everything that he does is magic, that any criticism is an automatic disloyalty, whether it's bound and founded in truth or not.
There is certainly a lot of that. And I never actually try to debate. I just put it out there, and you can take it or you can leave it. One of the things that makes me, I think, a little bit different is that I write for me. Okay, I don't write for anybody else. I don't write for gun owners. I don't write to do this. I write for me, for my own self-interest. I admit that right up front. These are my rights. These are the rights that I want to be able to pass on and protect. And so I'm not trying to persuade you. I refuse to debate gun control with some anti, because it's a zero-sum game. You prove them wrong and they'll raise another point, and they'll keep kicking the can down the road and ignoring the fact that you just proved them wrong. What's the point in doing that? So I'm not going to argue with anybody who's closed-minded. I'm not going to argue with anybody. Once in a while, I'll see something in comments and something like that. I'll turn around. I can't let that go unchallenged. I got to prove that what this person said just proves them to be a dolt. Okay.
Right. No, it happens. It happens. But we can see where what's interesting is we can see where the left is going. Like right now, you wrote an article about Sean Ryan and Gavin Newsom. His appearance on the Sean Ryan podcast, and the fact that he got a gun. And this guy is just, he tells so many lies. I don't even know how he keeps them all straight in his own head. How people would be surprised. I'm not really anti-gun. This is the guy that proposed the 28th Amendment, right? That would repeal the second. I'm not really. He supports every gun law that's come down the pike in California since he's been in power and everything else. And yet he's the guy that's now angling and wants to be the next Democratic nominee for president of the United States. And the Democrats, they just keep supporting these kind of jackals. It's like there's no self-awareness as to what's going on. You can't continue to do all these things and then say, well, that wasn't really me, right? Here's my actions, but that's not really me. I'm for you. I'm for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And that's the problem with American politics. And that's the problem with a culture that is so myopic. How many people get their news from MSNBC? Okay, what are they going to go away thinking? They get the sound bites. But by the same token, how many people in the Second Amendment community get their views from YouTube influencers and things like that? And a lot of times you'll see them just basically taking someone else's story and then mansplaining it to us. Okay, like, I'm sorry, I'll get tips on different YouTube videos and things like that. And instead, what I'll do is I will go and find the story that they're reading from and present the story, because I don't do this to promote other people's commentary. I do it to promote my own commentary. And
right,
I will often see something that is never brought up in these videos, or they're reaching wrong conclusions because they don't have a history that goes back decades to where they can see the genesis of what they're talking about actually came from, and know something that the person they're talking about said or did several years prior. And I've been cursed with like this selective photographic memory, to where if something interests me, I never forget it. And if something doesn't interest me, I don't remember it 3 seconds later. Okay.
Right.
You want Star Trek quotes? Come to me.
Right. Exactly. Selective eidetic memory. That's what we all need to have when it comes down to this. All right. Well, we're 30 seconds out from rejoining the radio. I want to tackle the larger question here. We're going to have about 8 minutes. I want to tackle the larger question of, how do we fix, in general terms, the reactions of things like the Minneapolis shooting? I mean, how do we fix it? The media, the government, the people, or just us as citizens, how do we address this? What's David Codrea's thoughts on that? We're going to jump into that here in just a second. I mean, some real light commentary and questions for the last 8 minutes of the show. Let's get back to it. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yep, that's it. Penguins. Big, wicked, ugly penguins. All right, welcome back to the program. David Codrea is our guest. WarOnGuns.com is where you find his writings and links to everything that he looks at and talks about every day. David, I said we're going to just lighten it up here at the last segment of the show. We're going to ask some easy questions here, like this thing with Minneapolis and all the other shootings that have happened in the last year. How do we fix that? I mean, is this a problem specifically? Is it a confluence of problems? We've got a mainstream media that sensationalizes it, only reports on half of it, doesn't give a lot of the real story about the shooters. We've got an elected body that has an agenda that wants to use it and spin it to its own means. We've got, all these other things, mental health issues. What's the solution for these kind of situations in your mind? I mean, make it simple for us, but what do you think would go a long way to solving some of these problems?
You ever see The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Read it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. Problem solved, right? Michael, there's no easy solution. This is a day-to-day grind, and unfortunately, society is so interconnected, and there's so many causal problems from public education and the indoctrination that the young people go through, and what's in their minds about guns. You take a look at the gun organizations, you take a look at gun shows, you take a look at meetings involving the right to keep and bear arms. How many of the crowd is composed of young people, okay, as opposed to middle-aged and old guys like me? So there's that aspect of it. There's the aspect that the mass media, by and large, is absolutely against us, and they continue to repeat lies that there's an entire political party, half the country, with their loyalists are firmly anti-gun. I think that we need to make sure that the Republicans who we can work with don't blow it. We need to get involved ourselves in order to make that happen. We can't just sit back and grouse on the internet. We have to get involved. Years ago, I read an article called Profiles in Apathy, and I listed several projects I'd been involved in that were all worthy projects. One was a pro-gun candidate. Another was a national pro-Second Amendment advertising program. And another was a gun rights activist who had been persecuted by the state of California and needed help with his legal struggles. And put this out there, tried to promote it to the best of my ability. Nobody, it's like the little red hen, who will help me bake the bread? And everybody wants to eat the bread at the end, but nobody wants to do the work to make it happen. And that, to me, is the biggest enemy that we have to fight. It's bigger than the anti-gunners. It is
apathy. Yeah.
It's what's going to be the death of us, so to speak, or force things into where the remarkable system bequeathed to us by the founders, where we can still protest, we can still go to court, we can still have free speech, we can do all the other things that you can't do in the United Kingdom right now. You put out a wrong tweet, you end up in the slammer. Okay. Right. We can still do that here. And so we need to do that. People need to get involved. People need to just do simple things. Pass on links if you read an article that you think is worthwhile. Tell people about this program. Find a candidate that's worthy of supporting, and or if you find a candidate that is, erring from the path, arm yourself with the knowledge to where you can help that candidate get back on track. But it requires, self-government means exactly that. We are part of the government, comes from us. These guys are our representatives representing our interests. How are they going to know what our interests are if we don't interact with them? Okay. Yeah. So to me, what's needed to change with all these things, whether your thing is gun rights, whether your thing is abortion, whether your thing is the way society is twisting genders around and leaving generations of very confused young people. Who knows? Whatever your thing is, what are you doing to work for it? Right. Because it's all interrelated. People talk about the Second Amendment. Let's just talk about the single issue. It's not just a single issue. It's all interrelated, and it's not about guns. It's about freedom.
Right. Well, it's the one right that allows all the other rights to exist. Sure. That's it for sure. And you make a valid point. Government is what happens to you when you stop paying attention. It is a participatory sport. We've got to be part of the solution, and we can't grow weary in well-doing. And that's been my fear, and some of the wins that we've gotten is that people will be like, oh, well, great, we won. Now we can just coast. You can never stop. You can never just coast. We've got to keep it going. 60 seconds, David, final thoughts for today.
Michael, it's always a pleasure to join you. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate Firearms Friday. I think it's an important forum for gun owners to be able to get their concerns across. So thank you for that. And anybody who wants to learn more about me, my clearinghouse is warOnGuns.com. warOnGuns.com. That'll get you to what I do for AmmoLand. That'll get what I've done for American Handgunner, what I do for Firearms News, anything and everything that I want to talk about, and join us. We're putting up new posts every day.
Absolutely. I followed him for years. David Codrea, warOnGuns.com. Thank you for coming on board. Hold the line for a second. Folks, we got more coming up. Hour 2 dead ahead. Firearms Friday, The Michael Duke Show. If you got to go to work, be kind, love one another, live well. We'll be back with more right after this. All right, David, final bite at the apple, my friends. The fastest hour in radio, right? Every freaking time. It just goes right along, just zips right along there. But I mean, I think that's a valid point. When we took a look at, we've made some wins. We've made some headway. We've done more. We've had more successes in the gun culture in the last 10 years than we've taken more ground back, I guess, in the last 10 years than in the last 100. And yet, I fear that could be its own form of disaster because we just feel like, okay, well, now we can do it and now we can coast. This is a long drawn out war. We may have won a battle. That doesn't mean we've won the war. We've got to hunker down, regroup, and again, continue to attack.
You get yourself a Democrat majority and you get yourself a Democrat in the White House. Clarence Thomas ain't getting any younger. And he's basically the giant that's holding back the flood. I mean, Alito's good and all that, but Clarence Thomas is the man. And, he's not going to be around forever. And the Democrats just can't wait to have a Supreme Court that's dominated by their apparatchiks to reverse Bruin in its entirety and go back to what they've been insisting, from 30 years ago, that the Second Amendment just protects the right to have a National Guard militia. Okay. Right. At that point, you know what? It's game over in terms of working the process. And I don't want to see this country devolve into civil war. I don't want to see it. I don't know anybody who does. No. But, there's a group out there. Well, there's, what is it? There's no voting our way out of it. And, what? You guys may be right. It may turn out to be that way. But as long as we can use the system that we have, I think we have a moral obligation to try to make it work.
Yeah, no, I mean, maybe we hold on by our fingernails and maybe we're only delaying the inevitable, but by God, I'd love to delay it long enough that my kids and their grandkids can still have it. We've got to keep the fight up. We can't stop. can't ever stop, never stopping. That's what we've got to do right now. Just keep at it. And it's what you do every day. You bring to light so many good things. And I really appreciate all your writings and everything that you do. I follow you on all your different outlets and everything you write. And I appreciate your commentary, and I appreciate your courage. And again, taking on some of these things that will not make you popular. With somebody in the chat room said, Trump derangement syndrome is a thing for the right sometimes as much as it is for the left. And it's true. Again, you've got to be able to call the balls and the strikes as you see them. And it takes some courage to do that. And you're willing to do that. And I appreciate it.
Well, Michael, I've said if I wanted to be popular, I'd be writing about the Kardashians. Okay.
True. That's true. And you could probably make a mint, my friend. You could probably just think of all the things you could get if you wrote about the Kardashians.
Really
all right. Well, David Codrea, again, waronguns.com. Thank you so much, my friend. It's great to talk with you. I hope you have a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll talk to you again here in the future.
Good enough. Thanks, Michael. See you.
Thanks so much. Again, David Codrea, waronguns.com. Go over there, get signed up, do all the stuff, do all the things, the stuff and things. And I appreciate him saying, folks, we should share this program. We should get more people involved with this. And by the way, for those of you who are subscribing on YouTube, the YouTube short thing has really taken off for us. And we're seeing some good traction there. And I hope that you will go out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because you'll see some bits and pieces. I've been dropping, between 2 and 4 different shorts every day, which recap some of the highlights of the program for the day. And we've been getting some traction. And I really like that. I appreciate that. We let's see, what was the latest one? Yesterday we were talking about ranked choice voting, and that video's already gotten over 1,000 views, for all 35 seconds of it. But it's it's important to try and get more people involved in the situation. And I love that. I love it. And I'm hoping that you guys will continue to tell your friends, they may get tired of you spamming the same share over and over and over again, but by God, it's kind of what we need to do. It's, we've got to keep people going. We've got to get more people involved in this conversation. That's what it's going to take to make the changes that are needed. All right. I want to, let's see, I just got the phone lines turned on. So we're going to turn the phone lines on for hour 2. We'll take some calls, and then we'll jump into it at the end of the show with Willie Waffle and wafflemovies.com. So, yeah. Oh, good job. Thank you. Terry says, good job, MD. Well, I just finally am leveraging some of the technology at my fingertips. I know people poo-poo AI and everything else, but the AI is helping me choose segments and cut stuff down and do everything else. It's going to be great. Yes, I am taking Monday off. Come on. It's Labor Day. Are you going to be up listening at 6 a.m. on Labor Day? I'm asking for a friend. Really. Are any of you who don't have to work going to be up listening at 6 a.m. or will you be maybe hitting the snooze button one more time? I will certainly be hitting the snooze button one more time for Monday. There will be no snooze button. The snooze button has been revoked for Monday. All right. Lots of good stories. And we're going to start off with this one. I think we might start off with this story here. Thanks to Brian. Well, you know what? Let me, we'll come back to this. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all this stuff. Let's get to it. Here we go.
buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show, broadcasting live across the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, also on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And, of course, live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. It's good to have you on board for this beautiful Friday. Hour 2 of the big radio program. We just finished up with David Codrea from waronguns.com. You should go out there and subscribe for his notifications and everything else. He writes for the Firearms News and Handgunner and AmmoLand and a bunch of different outlets. But he's always got something interesting to talk about, and he's always got an interesting take on stuff. You should go out there and take a listen to it and see what he has to say. Okay, we're coming up in the second hour. We've got some headlines. We got some things to talk about, but I also want to open up the phone lines to you, the listener, because I believe personally that is one of the best. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to the listeners, to see what you guys have to say, to get your take on some of these things, because, sometimes I'm operating in a bit of a vacuum, right? I mean, I'm just, what do you think, kind of thing. I know what I think. I know that I'm right, but am I really right? Do you believe in it? Do you think so? And again, maybe it's, us, David and I, taking the president to task on some of these things. And we kind of touched on it a little bit with the flag executive order that came out last week, that I was talking about earlier this week, that this flag executive order can be a little troubling because basically it's hyper criminalizing everything around the First Amendment protected right of burning a flag, right? Everything around it, that it's like, it's a slippery slope. I mean, I agree. I don't want to see the flag burned, but I also understand that it is, if somebody wants to burn their own flag, not somebody else's. Somebody brought that up. Well, what about the guy that got jailed for burning the rainbow flag, the trans flag, or the LGBT, whatever flag, the rainbow flag? Well, it turns out that the stories that were sent to me, all of this, the people involved had gone and stolen a flag from somebody else and then burned it, which turned it into a hate crime because you're stealing. If you're burning your own stuff, it's one thing. If somebody ripped a flag down from a flagpole, whether it's an American flag or whatever, and burned it, well, there's multiple crimes involved in that at that point, right? So, yeah, I could see that. Again, it's this slippery slope. It's this trend towards, and I don't think anybody can argue with the fact that President Trump has a tendency, has authoritarian tendencies, right? Well, because that's what a good CEO does. A good CEO makes the decision, takes the slings and arrows, makes the decision, and either, reaps all the benefits and the glory, or, is gonna take it in the shorts and be ostracized from the community. The buck stops with them. They make all the decisions. And so it's not surprising, as a guy who's used to being in private industry and a CEO and the chief, shot caller on everything, it's no surprise that he has kind of these authoritarian tendencies. But it means that it's up to us, the electorate, the people, those that voted for him and those that, put him in power and those that support him. It's up to us to remind him of his limitations, that his inclination may be towards, an authoritarianism because I said so kind of mentality, but it's up to us to remind him that there are limitations on the government. There are limitations on the presidency. There are limitations. So it behooves us to do that. And I know that rubs some people the wrong way. I understand that, but it doesn't alleviate us of our responsibility to hold people accountable for that. And I would say the same thing of any elected official, even those that I really like, right? Even those that I'm friends with. I mean, I've gotten into arguments with several of the legislators on this program, sometimes in public, sometimes in private, where I've read them the riot act for faltering on what I believe is their course. And we've got to do that. We can't just be yes men. We can't just be, everything that they do is magic kind of thing. Anyway, that was all a precursor to me saying I'm opening up the phone lines at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864 to get your take on what we've been talking about today or anything else that's firearms related or related to our discussions this morning. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So we're going to get things cracking on that. I could see that Miguel is up in Fairbanks, and he has joined us this morning to start the conversation. So give me 1 second, and we will bring Miguel onto the air, and we will talk about all this stuff and see what his thoughts are on this. Let's go ahead and go over there and pick him up right now. See what he has to say. Good morning, Miguel. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, good morning, Mike, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
No, I'm pro Second Amendment. I think any elected official, as you know, I ran last year, and I'm pro Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
It should be held accountable and responsible, but it's the people that kill people, not the guns. And of course, we all know that alcohol kills more people by the day, by the month, by the minute with drunk drivers accidents than more than anything else in this country. I'm going to keep fighting for our Second Amendment. I personally, I believe in the First Amendment, but I'm a combat veteran, more than 2 tours in different places of the world. It'll just give me a bad taste. It'll trigger some emotions of when I was over at some places to seeing people burning U.S. flags. It really doesn't set with me. So I don't agree with people burning the U.S. flag at all. I'm sorry for a lot of combat vets that will trigger something in them that may lead them to do something, because this is the blood, sweat, and tears that we fought for. I believe in the Constitution. I believe we fought for the people's rights, but there's other good, like I think I said it the other day in the chat room. You burn a Mexican flag in Mexico, the cartels will chop you up and put your body on display for what you did to that flag. So there's laws in many other countries that are harsh, that are like imprisonment or that, if you burn your own country's flag, it's harsh and cruel punishment.
Right. Well, but I guess my question to you on that is the same question that I asked you yesterday. Is that what we want to emulate? Is we want to emulate that any dissent should be then punished, all the way up to and including, the deletion of somebody because they disagreed with you, or they disagreed with the narrative of the nation, or they disrespected the flag? Or is that what we want to be? Is that the same kind of standard we want to be held to?
No, you have a good point there, Mike. And, people disagree with me every day. I am still involved in our local politics, state politics in one way or form or the other. But it's just something with me, with our flag and our forefathers that fought and died for it, the bloodshed and tears. It's just something in my veins, in my core. I believe everybody has a right to disagree. I believe everybody has a right, to their personal beliefs, their freedoms, their opinions, as long as we can all be respectful and speak like adults to each other and hear each other's opinions, because that's what makes this nation great.
Right.
So it's just something core with me. When you see, when you see your brothers or sisters that have passed on defending the flag, it just sets a different feeling inside of you.
No, I mean, look,
So,
I understand the pride. I feel the same pride. I still get burned up whenever I see something like that on TV or in a news report where somebody's doing that. I'm outraged and I'm furious.
yes.
But I also, in my heart, understand that that's what freedom is about. Freedom is messy. And you made a decision to go fight for this country. And I don't think you made it on the fact that people may or may not burn the flag. Now, I don't think that came into you had a sense
No.
of duty, right? You have a sense of duty. You have
Yeah.
and so that's what that's about. It's not about what people do. And people are, freedom is messy, Miguel. That's the problem.
Yes,
Freedom is very,
yes, it is.
in its purest form, it is very messy. And not everybody is going to be happy with all the outcomes. And I can understand the outrage. I can understand the anger.
Yeah.
I can understand the frustration, especially if you had brothers or sisters that, again, died defending this country or died defending the flag itself. But at the same time, I would like to think that you are, that if you are face to face with that, you still, you may be outraged and you may be angry, but you still would know in your heart that this is what you fought for, the ability for people to express themselves in a way that you may not necessarily agree with.
I mean, over the years, I've learned to, my family is very grateful that I've never been in that predicament where I've seen somebody burning a flag, but I'm sure they would just turn me around and make sure I wouldn't see it, because I'm not going to hurt somebody because they're expressing their First Amendment right. I'm not going to do that. Like you said, that's our First Amendment. That's every American citizen's right. So, like everything, you said the key word, Mike, freedom is messy. And that's why the saying goes, freedom isn't really free.
Yeah, no, it's not. And and some people are not going to appreciate you. Some people are not going to appreciate the sacrifice that people have made to keep us free. I don't think that these young minds full of mush who are marching down the street and all these things, waving, flags of other countries and burning our flag and doing I don't think that they ever give a thought to what allows them to have this freedom. But thank God we do have it. And thank God for the people who have sacrificed and suffered for that.
You're absolutely correct, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm the son of an immigrant who came here legally, who became a resident, who became a citizen, who lived the American dream, who retired. And my father is one who always says, why did this country give a driver's license test in every language available when you go to our countries and we won't give you a driver's license test in English? This country should make you read, write, and learn the language of the country and the customs and cultures, so you can respect that. So I don't agree with people putting up other people's flags in this country, and then you're benefiting from the country. There was a couple gentlemen and even a couple of reporters that told people, okay, you're waving the Mexican flag in the United States, but yet you refuse to come live in the country you're from because you won't reap the benefits of what you're getting from the United States. I agree with you there, Mike. 100%. But I'm a gun owner. I'm an avid gun owner. Every few weeks, I like to go buy me a gun for self-defense, or I'm like addicted to guns, and I've gotten into that little habit. And then making my ammo, making my own ammo. I am pro Second Amendment. And it's the people that kill people. When I talk to people and they want to say, oh, we need to do more gun laws and this, I said, no, the guns will not stop the bad people from getting guns.
Right.
I go, what about alcohol?
Yeah.
Then they're like, no, you can't take away alcohol. Remember Prohibition? I was like, drunk drivers kill people more than guns.
Yeah. No, again, try prohibition try a prohibition scheme on the level of the 1930s prohibition. Try that. for guns and see what
In
happens
today-
in this country, right? I mean, it's not going to, it doesn't make any sense, but you're 100% right on that. Well, my friend, freedom isn't free, and I appreciate your service, and I understand your frustration, but at the same time, I also understand that in your heart of hearts, you know that that's what you fought for. You fought for the ability for some numbskull to go out there and protest, and however they're going to protest. And as long as they're not breaking a law by stealing something to burn it or hurting people to whatever, that's their right. And I know in your heart of hearts, it may be frustrating and it may be agonizing, but you will make the right decision.
Oh, of course. And yeah, I got the American flag on my home, standing high and proud. And, of course, I got cameras on my home because that's just the way I am. And, people come up and it starts beeping because it's by my flag. I'm like, don't you dare touch my flag on my property because.
Well, and you got it lit. You got it lit, right? The flag is lit. I want to.
Oh, of course.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure.
And I just changed it out and put a brand new one on because the old one, I got to wait till next year on Flag Day to burn it properly with the proper ceremony at my VFW post 3629.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you for having me on. I want to wish everybody a happy Labor Day. Everybody enjoy. Sign the ranked choice voting. Up here in the interior, we have the tax cap coming up again. Please sign the tax cap books as well. So, we can stop them from trying to raise property taxes again. Get involved in your local elections. Please go out and vote. If you're registered, if you haven't registered, register to vote. We early voting September 22nd up here in the interior for the Assembly and Fairbanks Mayor, and then October 7th the actual vote.
Yep.
Get out there, vote. Your vote does make a difference because what was it? Many years ago, Bart LeBon, I think he won by one vote.
One vote. Yeah. Yep.
One vote.
One vote. Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Oh, there's been plenty of times.
We got to hold our politicians accountable.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to say is like, what would happen if everybody in the legislature's salary was held up until they came up with a proper budget? What would happen?
Well, I think something would happen, but good luck getting that. Good luck getting that through. But I think something would definitely happen. They would have to, if they had to come up with a fiscal plan, or else that would be the way to do it. All right, Miguel, thank you so much for calling in and being part of the show today. All right, that brings us up to the break. We've got more coming up. Again, the phone lines are open, 319-527-3864. The Michael Duke Show continues. We'll return here in just a moment. Willie Waffle coming up at the end of the show today. Back with more in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break right now, phone lines are open. We're going to do Willie at the end of the show today. And then and yes, I am off for Labor Day. And we'll see. Teresa says that teenager who burned the Pride-ish flag allegedly got thrown in slammer for a year, it was reported. Yeah, Teresa, you know what? All the stories, because somebody said that on the show the other day when we were talking about the flag. And I said, can you give me some can you source that for me? Give me some. And I got a couple different people that sent me, I think there was 3 different stories about people who had been prosecuted for burning the rainbow flag, right? In each case, they weren't burning their own flag. They had stolen it. They'd ripped it down. They'd run away with it. They'd taken it from somebody else. And then they were prosecuted for burning it or destroying it or whatever after the fact. So there were other precursors. You want to buy a flag and then burn it, that's your right. You want to steal a flag from somebody, well, then that's a whole nother kettle of fish. You want to set fire to a flag in a place that causes more fires, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. Right? It's not an apples to apples comparison because they stole something and then destroyed it. That's a whole different thing. Whereas if somebody is they've gone out, they purchased it, they want to make a demonstration, they want to have their displeasure heard, they want to fly the flag upside down, and then they want to stomp on it and then burn it. It's horrific. It's offensive, but it's their property and they can do what they want, right? It's their First Amendment right to make that an expression of their whatever, their feelings on the matter. That's the problem. And Teresa also said, that we should jail flag burners. And since when is vandalism not a crime? As she also said, attacks on the flag should be a felony. Well, no, vandalism, if it's your own property, if I go out and take a hammer to my car, is that vandalism? If I decide to destroy a TV or something, whatever, is that destruction of that's my stuff? Right? Do you want the government being able to tell you what you can do with your stuff? I would hope not. That's what I'm concerned about. I understand the sentiment. Again, I'm still the guy that gets a little tear in my eye and gets the lump in my throat, put my hand over my heart when they play the national anthem and we see Old Glory flying up there. I see that. I understand that. And it outrages me when I see people burning the flag, especially when there's people standing around them with flags of other countries. Like, if you like it so much, why don't you go there? But at the same time, I understand that's part of the American experience. That is part of what freedom is all about. It's messy. And it's uncomfortable. That's what most people don't get on that, is that freedom is messy and uncomfortable. And we've got to acknowledge that and accept that. That's what we got to do. Frank says, I wish I could do what I want on my real estate property. Yeah. I mean, that's what property rights are all about, right? Same thing. Same thing. Okay. Yeah. If they can't keep drugs out of the country, says Brian, why do they think they're going to keep guns out? By the way, I love your icon, Brian. Those chicks are badass. The Scottish warriors. The Scottish warrior princesses. Man, that place is going to hell. England and Scotland, those places, they're going downhill fast. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I see that we've got Fred on the line. We're going to jump over to Fred here in just a moment. We got to get back to it, and we'll continue. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the important stuff. Let's get it going on and continue on this beautiful, beautiful Friday.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Okay, we're continuing now. And yes, just to answer a question in the chat room, somebody asked, are you taking Monday off? Yes, I am taking Monday off. I thought that was kind of a given on national holidays. I will not be on the air on Thanksgiving or Christmas or the 4th of July or, yes, Labor Day or Memorial Day. Any excuse that I can get for a 3-day weekend, I'm going to take. All right? That's just how it is. So I will not be here on Monday. There'll be alternate programming, and then you guys can, fly, be free. We'll be back on Tuesday. So that's what's going on. Phone lines are open today on this Firearms Friday, 319-527-3864. We're taking your calls on a lot of the topics that we've hit on this morning. I do have some stories that we can get to if we have enough time. Otherwise, Willie Waffle is going to be joining us here at the end of the segment, and we'll see what he has to say. Meanwhile, Fred is on the line from Rhode Island. He listens every week across, I guess, on the internet across the country there, and he calls us up and joins us to give us his thoughts from out there in occupied territory in Rhode Island. Good morning, Fred. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Michael. Yeah, great show. Great show.
Thank you.
Listen, as far as burning the flag goes, now you're absolutely, you do have a good point. I mean, it is discretionary, and you're right to sit there and take a side. However, people overwhelmingly would look at burning the flag as probably the form of treason. It's a form of tyranny, form of treason. To the nation, to the who we are as a nation, and that does not stand well, and it should not stand well. However, it should be pointed out that if they're going to take that road, they have the right to do so. You have the right to do anything you want to do. However, you have to draw the lines in the in society as to what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and you have to be held accountable. Individuals, they want to burn a flag. That's entirely their right to do so. However, you will, bad decisions result in bad consequences. I'm a firm believer of that. You do something like that, then you should be held accountable for that. And I would say labeling a person as treasonous would not be out of place. I think that would definitely.
Well, but again, that goes back to my question before, Fred. I mean, we live in a land where people, as long as, again, they're burning their own flag, not somebody else's. We want to make that clear. But if they're doing it as a form of protest, do we really want a government that's going to come down and say, you're doing something that we don't agree with, and so we're going to empower government to come in and punish you for that kind of speech? Because that's what it is. It's a form of protest. It's a form of speech. Do we want to be like Mexico or North Korea or some other place where they penalize people for disrespecting national symbols?
Well, no, I think that jailing them would be. I think that would be.
That's a punishment.
That'd be a little bit much over the line to actually jail them, but to call them out, to definitely call them out, and call them for what they are, and definitely expose them, to bring more recognition to them in their action, which the media will never do, because the media is all on the side for let's turn this country into a third world cesspool. I firmly believe that the mainstream media, that's their goal, and the only reason they're going to do it is to increase their ratings. So it's like it's like the fifth gear to hell is what it is, as far as what the media's been doing over the years.
Well, it's again, it's a touchy subject because, again, the people who are patriotic and who support the country and support the flag, they understand what went into protecting it. They understand what it represents, and it's a bitter pill to swallow sometimes. But again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is freedom is messy, which is the same argument we use for firearms. We have the right to keep and bear arms. Does it make the country sometimes less safe? Maybe. But at the same time, it's what freedom is all about. It's about people taking responsibility for their own actions and taking care of their own security and doing that kind of stuff. Freedom is messy, but I would rather have that over some kind of totalitarian state.
Well, like I said before, you have rights, but you also have to have the responsibility. And everybody talks about the rights, nobody even mentions responsibility. To go with those rights. If you have the right to own a firearm, you also have an inalienable responsibility to use that lawfully, to use that device lawfully. And everything else that goes along with rights has to have responsibility that accompanies it. But nobody talks about the responsibility. That's a problem. That's something that should be taken up in the schools right away. But you think I don't know where they're coming from, or who infiltrated the education system in this country, and these children with, which leads us up to what happened just the other day over there in Minnesota. This trans who has this buyer's regret as to changing, and he just kind of went off the rails and did what he did. I mean, that's just terrible. I think we got to trace that back. But they sit there in the media once again, and people, certain individuals on the other side of the line, want to sit there and exploit that. I heard a statement the other day that every gun owner should once a year or every other year have a psychological exam that allows them to keep their gun. Which is like, what? Are you kidding? Have we gone that far off the rails in this country? Which was the same argument can be made for automobiles. You have a driver's license, you own an automobile, you drive that car. Maybe once a year you should go have a psychological examination.
Right.
To see if you're an alcoholic, or you drink too much, or you're on the road to become an alcoholic. In which case you take a driver's license suspended or restricted.
Right.
Come on. These people that just use anything to exploit, their position, which is, they're not even truthful about it. They're not even on the line truthful about what their real intent is. Their intent is to get rid of the Second Amendment and kind of like take control over everybody's life. And then if they sit there and get that, they're not going to stop. And that should be called out. That has to be, every time they open their mouth, there should be a counterpoint to put them down right away.
Fred, I agree that there should be consequences for actions. I don't think that there should necessarily be legal consequences for actions like we're talking about. There should be consequences in their communities. They should be, there could be ostracization. There could be people saying, I'm not going to serve you anymore at a restaurant, or I'm not going to, or I'm not going to support whatever it is that you're supporting because what I believe you did is wrong. There are all different kinds of ramifications for these things. And I think that is, I think that's part, but again, to criminalize, protected behavior, speech, free speech efforts in that thing, I think that's the problem. Now, if they stole something, if they're destroying somebody else's property, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. This is
you're not really prosecuting them for burning a flag if they stole a flag. You're prosecuting it because they stole. They actually went out and stole somebody's property.
Yep, stealing.
That's what they're really after.
And destruction of property.
Once again, the media likes to spin it up their way.
Yeah.
And turn it into, like a shell game. Where's the ball? Where's the ball?
I want to touch base with you real quick. So apparently, your AG is above the law. The assistant attorney general, she got she had a suspension for 6 months with no pay, but she's still working for the AG's office. This is the gal that basically got physical with police and told them that I'm an AG and I'm above the law and everything. Apparently she is above the law because she still got her job.
Like I say, Rhode Island has turned into, little Beijing, and they really have, whatever the Communist Committee wants to pass down the line. What they've been pushing, and that's the whole thing between the whole assault weapons ban and a lot of other nonsense and taxation. All the other crap that they get away with over here.
Yep.
And I say people have to call them out.
Yeah.
They have to be exposed. They get away with it. They're running in cahoots with the media. Everything is. I don't say it's a conspiracy, but they're lining their ducks up for their own benefit.
Yeah.
And they're definitely somebody's making an awful lot of money on all this crap.
Absolutely.
They really are.
Absolutely. All right, Fred. Well, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
Take care, Michael. Have a good week.
All right, folks, we got more coming up. Willie Waffle up next. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We continue right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the final break here, the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. I got a message. Hold on. Okay. Oh no. No Willie. This morning. Turns out that it's just me and you for the last segment of the show. So, I got some headlines, some firearms headlines, or we could do our own entertainment review, our own lighter side stuff. What do you guys think? Poll in the chat room. 30 of you in all the chat rooms between Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. What do you think? Should we keep firearms up, or should we do some kind of entertainment review? I got a few things I could think about. Headlines, says Brian. Headlines. All right. Headline. Brian wants headlines, want gun headlines. Anybody else? Otherwise, Brian's going to reign supreme. What do we think about the last Conjuring movie coming out? My wife is so super excited for that. She loves the Conjuring universe movies. I've seen like one of them or two of them, and my wife she used to be such a fraidy cat. She used to be when we first got married 34 years ago, she used to not like scary movies. And here we are 34 years later, and boy, if she could just watch all the Scary Movie channel on repeat, she would. That's what she would do. Oh, well, it seems a lot of you want to talk about headlines. Okay. All right, I'm down with that. I can do that. Miguel says, though, I love movies too. Have you seen the movie Sinners yet? If you haven't seen the movie Sinners with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo, and oh man, it's such a good movie. I watched that last weekend with Terry. That is a fantastic movie. Chris says, I highly recommend the Netflix series called The Pacific, based on real life events from World War II. Is it a docudrama? Is it like a documentary? Is it a drama based on documented events, or is it a documentary? Chris, I'm interested because I love that period of time. I love that World War II period of time, and watching the old newsreels and the stuff it's like Band of Brothers. That was amazing, right? The other day I was actually looking. We've got, how many of you have got like 10 boxes of DVDs sitting in a closet somewhere, right? I'm trying to find I have the limited case, the special edition of the Band of Brothers. And I haven't, it's some amazing stuff. I was trying to find it the other day, and I haven't been able to find it. It's in a box somewhere. I know I got it. That's one I have to watch on my own, though. Terry can't watch that because it's like watching Saving Private Ryan. I've watched it a couple times, but my wife has only ever watched it once in the theater. That first opening scene where they're doing the Normandy invasion it was too much for her. Can you do the weather report for where? Where do you want me to do the weather for, Chris? The whole state? The whole state? All right. All right. I got a monitor that's flickering mercilessly up here. See what kind of time frame we got here. We got about just under 2 minutes. We're gonna have to do this our own way, aren't we? Yeah, it's gonna be windy. The Pacific is the sister series to the Band of Brothers. Oh, okay. I'm sold. I'm sold on that. Yeah, here's your weather forecast, Chris. It's going to be windy and rainy pretty much everywhere. Windy and rainy pretty much everywhere across the state right now. That's what we're looking at. Oh, okay. I'm scrambling a little bit in my mind mentally because I was wanting to get into the stuff with Willie, but we're not going to be able to do it today. David says, I'm going to watch the original Dirty Dozen this weekend. I love that movie. I do too. You know what else I love? The Guns of Navarone and Force 10 from Navarone. Do you guys remember those movies? Oh, so good. Gregory Peck. Oh my God, it's so good. David Niven, Gregory Peck. That's the original Guns of Navarone, and then Force 10 with Harrison Ford. Ooh, I'm gonna have to do some digging this weekend. I might have to pull that up for some Labor Day goodness right there. That might be some good stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue on here. Let's get to it. We're about 15 seconds out. We're ready to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Please like and share, like and follow, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's get to it. Here we go. Let's do this thing.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Surprise! Hey, it's me. Yeah, no Willie this morning. We had just got a message during the thing. Anyway, no Willie this morning, unforeseen circumstances. And so I took a poll in the chat room and asked them if they wanted me to attempt to stumble my way through an entertainment and movie review for the weekend. And their answer was no, we'd rather have firearms headlines, which is fine. Although we did start talking about some good stuff, including a new series that's out there on Netflix called The Pacific, which is based on real life events from World War II. And apparently it's the sister series to The Band of Brothers, which is an amazing, if you haven't watched A Band of Brothers, man, where you been? It's an amazing series as well. So The Pacific, I've just put it on my watch list for the coming. I can't wait to see what that's about over on Netflix. And then somebody else mentioned The Dirty Dozen. We're going. I'm supposed to be doing a firearm stuff, but I wanted to real quick. The Dirty Dozen, which again, Telly Savalas and the whole. Oh man, that again, another great World War II flick, which just reminded me of my all-time favorite World War II movie, which is The Guns of Navarone, and then followed shortly thereafter by Force 10 from Navarone. The Guns of Navarone, of course, Gregory Peck and David Niven. I just forgot the Greek guy's name right off the top of my head here. Anthony Quinn. And then, of course, Force 10 from Navarone, which was the sequel, which had Harrison Ford in it and everything. Just some great. I have watched those movies. I don't know, because we had them on Betamax. That's how old these movies are, right? We had them on Betamax. I think Dad recorded them off of some cable system or something, and I probably wore that tape out of Guns of Navarone and The Dirty Dozen. Those movies, so good. So if you're looking for something great to watch this weekend and you want to go into the Wayback Machine, then those are my recommendations for the weekend. All right. Dirty Dozen, Guns of Navarone, Force 10 from Navarone. And then, I guess the Eiger Sanction, was that the one? No, Flight of the Condor, which was the one with Clint Eastwood where they hang glided in. It was World War II and they hang glided in. I can't remember. Somebody will remind me in the chat room. Anyway, good weekend stuff. All right, well, let's hit some of the latest headlines from around the country, and we need to look at what's going on. And let me tell you what I think one of the major problems are in America when it comes to these shootings. One of the major issues and one of the main driving forces behind what we're seeing is the reaction of the mainstream media. Because what we're seeing here is we're seeing partial truths and half-truths that come out where we don't get the full story on who these people were. We get a partial story and we get whatever fits their narrative. That's what they're excited about. We get the naming of the perpetrators where their name and their picture are splashed everywhere. So they get their moment of fame. Now, posthumously, but see, that doesn't matter because what they're now feeding into is the next generation of crazy people who want to get their 15 minutes of fame. They think that's going to be important to them. And then we get the manipulation of trying to utilize the crisis and the emotion of the moment to strip away fundamental rights from all the other Americans who did nothing, who had nothing to do with it. Even with the mass shooting events that we have in this country, the number of people who are killed with firearms in this nation outside of suicides, just in criminal murder, is again like 0.004% of all guns owned in the country. And the fact that we are trying to shut down 99.996% of all gun owners for the actions of that very small fraction of a percent is insane. And yet the news media continues to portray it. And what's really interesting is when you look at the statistics and you look at the polling that comes out, because you always hear it, right? Oh, the majority of Americans, they support gun control. But do you know that those polls that are being quoted are all polls that are always taken in the height or in the recent aftermath of a mass shooting like that? If you want to look at the real numbers, what you need to look at is the long-term numbers. What is the averages and the long-term numbers across? And Pew Research Center has a huge, they've been following this for years, for decades. And they take a look at this, and they've looked at this number, and they see that in the totality of all this stuff, that the nation is not predominantly one way or the other. It's just pretty evenly divided. 49, 52, 52, 49, 48, 57, 51, that if you look at it in the long run, Americans are pretty evenly divided on this. But what we keep hearing, of course, is that the majority of Americans, 80+%, are in favor of gun control. Now, of course, they don't ever tell you what gun control entails. That's part of the other problem. But if we had a news media that would just stop sensationalizing it, stop putting these people up on a pedestal, stop naming them. Okay, you want to name them the first time, one time, and then from then on, it's the shooter. And don't put their picture up. Don't give them that fame. I would like to see some of the manifestos, though. And this guy, this last guy, who was a gal guy, whatever, who just wanted to see children suffer. That was part of his whole deal. He was focused on that. It's crazy. This guy, he had all kinds of problems. This all points back again to our mental health issues in this country, which I don't know how to get a handle on. I wish I had a solution. I mean, I would say bring back institutions, but institutions have such a bad track record of abuse and mishandling and just so many. But at the same time, all you got to do is watch 10 minutes of YouTube videos of people who are out there, getting arrested for. I saw a video yesterday. I could only watch it for 5 minutes. It was a 30-minute video of them interacting with this person in a grocery store, trying to get him out of the grocery store, who was crazy. I mean, like full-blown crazy, walking around just. And it's a wonder that we have things like this. It's surprising we don't have these things happen more often when you see people like that. All right. Well, the phone lines were still open, and I didn't turn the phones off, and I didn't mention it. And Matt is on the line, so I guess we'll go over to Matt's phone call here before I get into something else here. Let's jump over to it. Good morning, Matt. What's on your mind, sir? What's happening?
Good morning. Hey, just up here in the interior, and I just had in one comment. As a child development counselor certified by the state of Alaska, working for CPS, Child and Health Services, Protective Custody, don't I have a right to counsel a child in regards to gender conforming surgery? If a child feels that they need a gender conforming surgery, David needs to have a surgery to confirm that David feels like he's a female. Don't I have that right to speak life into that child and affirm what it is that they feel?
Do you have the right to somebody else's child? As an official of the state? Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
I don't think you have the right to do that. I wouldn't think you have the right to do that. I think that's a decision between the child and their parents and everything else. I think it's problematic. I don't think any elected or bureaucratic official has a right to go into somebody else's familial unit and do something like that. If there's something wrong or going on or some kind of, abuse or something like that, you have a right and a duty to report something like that. But I don't think that anybody who works for the government has a right to go in and, into a familial unit like that and try and convince, coerce, soothe, whatever, a child to go one way or another in that regard. I don't believe that personally.
Okay, so as a child, as a youth counselor, you don't feel that I should be able to exhibit my right to free speech and coach this child into a gender conforming surgery. With that being said, I would say that that would be an infringement upon my First Amendment right to free speech. I actually don't agree that anyone should tell a child they should get a mutilating surgery. But when we talk about burning the flag, you may view it as a freedom of speech. I don't look at it that way in any way, shape, or form. I see it as a sign. I think it represents treason. And if you look up the definition of treason, I believe it is.
Are you still with me, Matt? Can you still hear me? I see Matt he's still on the line, but I've lost his audio. Are you still with me, Matt? I guess not. I'll leave a line on just in case his connection comes back. But Matt, look, I don't believe that freedom of speech is one thing, and that means you can say whatever you want. It does not give you the right to say that to somebody in private. So I think that, again, that's an apples to oranges comparison. But again, it can't be. The courts have decided, the Supreme Court has decided that it is a freedom of speech issue. Is it offensive? Yes, absolutely. But I find many things offensive that people say or do in this country that is protected by their rights and their freedoms. I'm sure some people find it offensive that I am pro-gun, and that, you know what? It's their right to be offended. It doesn't minimize my rights either. And so while, again, I am discouraged and disgruntled and upset when somebody does that, I also understand that that's part of the whole freedom thing. That's part of the problem there. Yeah, somebody says, well, there goes his free speech. He better go protest AT&T. Well, maybe it's I don't know who it is. But I would just say that that's not an apples to apples comparison. And overall, again, while I don't like it and I'm frustrated and I'm offended by it, that's what freedom is about. The ability to say something that may offend somebody else, but having the freedom to do so. I don't want to be North Korea, Mexico, Russia, China, whoever it would be that would, or the UK, where I wouldn't be able to say any of the things that I've said today in the UK without going to jail. That's a sad commentary on today. And the fact that we've got people on this program or listening to this program who love America and distrust the government, but at the same time want the government to come in and protect what their beliefs are, that's the huge problem. All right, folks, we're out of time for today. We'll see you on Monday. Tuesday. We'll see you on Tuesday. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Again, I think the analogy was poorly executed on his part. I don't think you have the right to go talk to somebody's child. Freedom of speech does not include cornering somebody. Freedom of speech means you can say it. And Leela is right. Leela is 100% right. Leela just said, state of Alaska employees don't have freedom of speech in their jobs, only in their private lives. 100%. All right. Well, I'm going to go get started on my day. Maybe I can knock off a little early today. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming in. Love you. We'll see you on Tuesday. Be kind. Love one another. Live well.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.